And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, I'm Tom Vasel, and today we're taking a look at Summit, the board game. I do not know why people climb big mountains. There's all kinds of reasons. To prove it to your kids, think your kids prefer you alive. To do it because it's, to show how great you are. I believe you without you climbing up the mountain. Because it's there, really bad reason. But hey, whatever. People have reasons for climbing mountains. The mortality rate seems to be pretty high. And in this one, you're climbing this gigantic mountain with another group of people. Now, this game says it's a cooperative and a competitive game. I always suspect that. Very few games in my lifetime, I'm trying to think of any, that were both good cooperative and good competitive. Although if one of the modes is good, I'm fine with that. Either way, this game caught my interest because of the theme, because it has triangular tiles. Let's take a look at it. Regardless of whether playing a cooperative or a competitive game, you're going to get a character, and so there's various characters to pick from. When you pick your character, they're going to have a movement here. So this guy starts with a movement of 6. They have a health. This guy's a health of 12. And they start with other things. This is your weight track. This is your oxygen and your food track. Now at the beginning, you can pick how much food and oxygen you want. So I might say, I'm going to take 5 food and I'm going to take 5 oxygen. Now, because I did that, you'll notice that I passed the weight marker 3 times. So this weight marker here is going to move 3. 1, 2, 3. And since that passed the movement once, my movement is actually going to be 5 instead of 6. There's also a possibility of getting starting equipment. So let's say that, for example, I'm going to take an extra storage card. This has a weight token on it. So then I would have to move the weight another 1. So as your weight goes up, your movement is going to go down. And that's also going to change based on the characters. As the game goes by, you're going to be needing to eat food and using oxygen as you go up the mountain. And if you can't do that, you'll lose health. And as you lose health, your movement might also go down. So you have to be very careful. Now in the cooperative game, I'm showing you the cooperative side of the board. Each player also has a Sherpa. You can basically skip your turn, take some of their oxygen and some of their food, and add it to your own. But that's basically how you're going to go. So at the beginning of the game, you're going to draw several of these items. And there's all sorts of items in the game. Some have more weight than others, but they're all going to give you special abilities. Some are one-time uses. So players are going to pick those and decide. Now there's going to be either 1 or maybe 2 base camps at the bottom of the board, depending on how many players are in the game. This is where you're going to start from, and you're going to be moving. Players are going to have handfuls of tiles that they're going to be placing out on their turn. On your turn, you can move up to your movement amount, placing tiles as you want to. Now the tiles have to make sense. Like this obviously does not work because that rope doesn't go there. So I might find something like this one here and go here. Now this yellow rope is thin air. So whenever you cross on a yellow rope, go into a yellow rope tile, you have to spend an oxygen. There's also blue. This is ice. This is not necessarily anything that matters, except there's a lot more knots. So spaces. So if I'm going to go here and I have 6 movement, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then I would stop there, and that would be the end of my turn. Oh, well, okay. I wish it was the end of my turn. Instead, I'm rolling these 2 dice. Now, the first one is the weather die. I'm trying to roll sunny. Otherwise, I'm going to have to eat a certain amount of food based on how many snowflakes. Or if I roll the blizzard, I move the blizzard up, and everybody has to eat that much food and or oxygen, depending on where it is. And if the blizzard gets all the way to the top, then we lose the game. This die here is the event die. This die actually goes off before the weather die, and you will draw the top card from an event deck. Now throughout the event deck, there are some symbols on the cards, and you'll build at the beginning of the game. This one here with this little first place ribbon type of thing, that's only used in a competitive game, while the handshake is only used in a cooperative game. And some cards are used in all games. Some cards have a sun on them. These cards are cards you want to leave in if you want the game to be easier. And then there are cards with diamonds which are horrifically awful. So maybe I'll draw this. It's a snow cave, and it makes all the requirements cheaper on this tile. So as you draw these cards, you're going to be able to, you're going to have to deal with them. Here's a stomach bug. At the end of every turn, you lose this until you find maybe an item that cures you of it, or you go all the way back down to the base. Here you can collapse. You flip your tile over. Everyone has to get off it. Now you can't go into that spot anymore. Your movement's half for the next turn. Your Sherpa's removed from the game and you get some stuff. You can fall moving down and lose some health as you go down. So sometimes they're good and sometimes they're bad. Mostly they're bad. So players are working together to place these tiles on the board. So maybe this one's placed here next. And meanwhile, the other base camp is trying to get up to and move these tiles. So then they put this one here. And you're slowly trying to get to the very top, the summit, and then get down. Now, in the cooperative game, only one player needs to get up there and get down. If they do that, players win. They're then going to get a score based on how many hit points each player has left, how many people survived, etc. Once you do go to base camp, you can fly out, you're out of the game, or you can keep going back up and trying to help other people down. How would you help someone else down? Well, when you move in this game, you move a certain number of spaces, but if someone's on the space you're going to move to, that space doesn't count. They're like helping you move. So if I'm here and I move 3, I would go 1, 2, 3. So the more people that are on a path, the faster you can move. It's like you're helping each other up and down the trail. And then you just look at your final score at the end of the cooperative game if you survive. Of course, you can lose by this here. There's also a time of day. You can pick where you start, and during the day you're fine, but at night your movement is halved. And you basically have 24 hours to do something, so you might want to start slowly at night and then have your full movement at the end. It's up to you where you start, but you're going to also lose points for the more hours that you take. I always start in the morning. You might as well run up the mountain as fast as you can and then get back down. Your Sherpas can also carry items for you. You can drop an item on the mountain, so you would drop it here, then you'd put a numbered token matching that item wherever you dropped it. So let's say I put an item here, item 5, and I dropped it here. Someone else can come pick that up. And your Sherpas can also carry items that you can take from them. That's the cooperative game. Let's look at the other side of the board now, the competitive game. The competitive board adds several things. First of all, it has a halfway camp, and players are racing up the mountain now. The first person to get to different areas, the first person to get to the halfway camp on the way up is going to get 4 points, so you mark that over here. First person to get to the summit, first person to get to the halfway camp on the way down, and first person to get to the base camp on the way back. You're also going to get points over here for your karma track. This side introduces a deck of karma cards, and these karma cards are going to do positive and negative things depending on what you want to do. You have to actually have the points to spend them. So this here, for example, costs 4 karma, and you pick a target, they lose 3 health and go down 6 points. That's fine. That's a negative thing, but you need to have 4 karma. So if I'm here, I'd pay 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I'm all the way down to 1, so I probably am going to start playing good cards than other people, like a pot luck. And I make all players' food requirement is reduced by 1. I helped everybody else out 1, so now I go up 1. And the farther up I go, the more the negative cards I can play. And you can see some cards are really extremely negative. So here I can make someone lose 2 health, but if I kill them, then I actually lose 6 karma, which would be very, very difficult for me to recover from. So you're playing good and bad cards on people on your turn to make your karma go up and down. That's pretty much the main differences between these, and players have to ask permission to pass each other. They're not helping each other anymore. So at the end of the game, your score here, plus these 4, whoever has the most points, is the winner. Okay, so that's Summit. Now, let's talk first about co-op versus competitive before we get into anything else. I like the cooperative method a lot better than the competitive. The competitive is a fancy take-that game, and this is a game that already has a ton of randomness in it. The cooperative game I enjoy, however, I know there's going to be random things that happen. Random event happens here. Avalanche is a nasty thing. Oh, this happened and this happened. But we together as a group deal with it. In a competitive game, not only is that those random bad events happening, but there's also people smacking you around with these karma cards. And I don't like that combination as much. In fact, I probably don't like it much at all. I know some people enjoy that better, but it's pretty mean, and I think the game just works better cooperatively. But whatever, they're both in the same box. Components for this game are great. The tiles, I love the triangular tiles, they're fun. There's a really nice plastic insert that fits everything in. My only complaint about components was that the cubes didn't fit in the boards as well as I like that. You have to kind of push them in. I think that these should sit there. And also, if you're going to play cooperative or competitive, you do have to go through each time and sort out which cards you're going to use. Although if you play one method more than the other, you can just leave the other cards in the box. But there's these big starting tokens. This was almost like an overproduced thing. Yeah, these is to show the start player, and it's also an item that you guys can vote on to use. That's neat. They included several of them. They're really big. The artwork in this game, don't like it. It's jagged, ugly, the people, the mountain, it's great on the mountain. That jagged mountain, and it makes it all triangular and jagged, and the car design is fine, and the ropes, that all looks good, but the people look ugly. Sorry, don't like the artwork. And I think we should talk about the rule book. I don't know if I like this rule book or not, because what this rule book does is that it tries to explain both games at the same time. So you go through, and here's setup, you set up. Now, if you're competitive setup, you got to go here. So every time I get here, I'm at number 6. Okay, over to competitive. Back over here. Oh, over to competitive again. Next time, just make 2 books. One for competitive players, one for cooperative players. I know many of the rules are the same, but I have to tell you, constantly I'll go through, oh wait, that's competitive. That doesn't work for me. Oh, that's cooperative. That doesn't work in this game. And it just made going through the rules a little bit more painful. The rules were fine other than that. I just did not like having the 2 rule books mixed into one. The idea is pretty cool though. Again, back to the cooperative, you're going up the mountain and, oh no, we need some help. I can steal stuff from my Sherpa, or he's carrying it for me. Your Sherpa usually won't die, although there's some event cards that kill them. And so am I going to waste the whole turn and then load up on supplies? And then when you load up on supplies, it slows you down. It's a great mechanism. At the beginning, I'm loading up with everything, but then I'm moving slowly up the mountain. Or I'm going to carry a few things and run up the mountain as fast as I can, but then you're going to run out of food and oxygen possibly when you need it. When you're placing tiles, you can also skip your turn, discard all your tiles, draw a new hand. Which tiles are best? Those yellow tiles are fast, the thin air tiles, but you got to pay oxygen as you go through them. The ice ones, oh, what a pain those are. Should I waste a turn though discarding tiles and drawing more? Each person has a special ability. Like for example, one person they can have 4 tiles and their stats are different. So I really like the asymmetricalness of that. One thing I really liked, and I wished I didn't see it here in the book, but I think it would have been really helpful if they said, turn to page 10, and you go back to page 11. And on page 11, there's a listing that says, if you're playing this character, this is what you should pick your starting stats to be in your first game. And these are the starting equipments you should play with. Wow, that's so helpful for a first game. Definitely when you're on your first play, do that. Other than that though, like I said, I enjoyed the game, realizing though that dice roll and events can do bad things to you, but you're working together and you feel like you have to move and do and work together as a team to get up and down. Those random events and random weather die rolls and things, there's fewer of them in a competitive game, but then people are slapping each other, making people miss turns. I just felt that was kind of, first of all, it's not very thematic. I don't think people are climbing a mountain and trying to just whoop up on each other all the time. Maybe it happens and I don't know. But I can see some people maybe enjoying that more. But for me, this game is a very, very good cooperative game. And it's an okay to negative competitive game. But still, you can ignore the one set of rules and it's great. Cool theme, cool components. Check it out. That's Summit. Dice Tower Judgment approved.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Shut the door.